This is four-time Super Bowl champ Keena Turner, and you're listening to Jim on Base.
Welcome back to another episode of the Jim on Base Show. For today's very special guest, we have on someone who spent 11 seasons in the NFL. He's a Pro Bowler and four-time Super Bowl champion. He's also spent time as a 49ers broadcaster. He's in the Bay Area Sports Hall of Fame, the Jewish Sports Hall of Fame of Northern California, Purdue University Hall of Fame, and the Chicagoland Hall of Fame. And he currently serves as the Vice President and Senior Advisor to the General Manager for the 49ers. He also went to the same gym as me for many years. Please welcome the great Keena Turner. Keena, thanks for coming on.
Hey, Jim. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, excited to have you on. And I told you before we started, I used to see you at the gym. You were always on the bike reading the newspaper.
Yeah, well, you were kind enough to say you didn't beat me up in the gym at the gym or in basketball, because I know I got beat up quite a bit there.
How
I
is
love
the
your
jump
Tracy
shot?
route. Set shot. It wasn't a jump shot. It's like a set shot.
Well, it's funny because Tracy, I guess, is where all the celebs are at, because you never know when you go to the gym. You might see Keena Turner, MC Hammer, and up until a few years ago, you could even see Vita Blue pumping some iron in there.
Yeah, and we definitely gonna miss
Yeah.
miss Vita. May he rest in peace. He was awesome. He was really one of our great supporters at the
Mm.
Boys and Girls Club through the golf tournament. Really gonna miss him. And so, and one of my mentors, Willie Harper,
Mm.
who I trained under at the 49ers, also lived in Tracy for a little bit. Like you said, Hammer's right down the street. Guy McIntyre lives in town.
Oh,
Bubba
wow.
Paris lives in town. And so we've got a list of guys. They all followed me out.
Yeah, you paved the way.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because a lot of core Niner legends have all pretty much stayed in great shape. You know, you see Steve Young on the golf course, Jerry Rice. I see you walking around town, so you're always getting your steps in.
Well, I have to. I mean, you get. I'm at that point now. Is if you don't use it, you lose it, right? You lose the ability to use it, and so I think it's helped me stay fairly healthy. And I'm just trying to extend the back end, as they say.
Well, it is great to have you on because a special memory I wanted to tell you about was I went to Jefferson Middle School back in the day in Tracy, and I remember being
Right.
in the eighth grade, and I don't know if you still do it, but you would do a yearly talk to the kids. And I'm
Yeah.
curious if you remember this because it was right after the Raiders Bucks Super Bowl, and they introduced you, and all the kids were Raiders fans, and they booed you.
I do remember that one, and you're taking me back to the essay contest that we
Mm.
used to run in the middle schools. I had some great friends and supporters, Ron and Teresa, who were both teachers in the school district, and they really had the idea and asked if I'd support it, and we came up with this essay contest that we did for about 10 years, and it was really really cool to see some of the young people, put their thoughts down in paper like that. And for sure, I ran into a lot of times when, the 49ers weren't number one on everybody's list, but that's okay because, we had some fun with the essays.
Yeah, exactly. And it all comes around again, you know. Everyone has their moment.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I wanted to talk about the 28th annual golf tournament that you have coming up. It helps benefit the Boys and Girls Club of Tracy, and it's going to be June 19th at the Ruby Hill Golf Course, right?
Yeah, man, and I tell you, Jim, it's gone so fast. I mean, 28 years now. The last number of years at Ruby Hill, which is a fantastic course, and they've been real good to us over the years, and so pretty amazing. I had this idea that we would do about 10 years. Bill Walsh said 10 years anywhere is about long enough, right? And so you should be looking for the door around that time, but gosh, it's just been a wonderful experience that me and my family have gotten so much out of, and it's just been great support from the community, and obviously the Boys and Girls Club needs no explanation. They just do a tremendous job, and so I've just been very very fortunate with the support and that it's going to such a worthy cause.
Well, I don't want to get you in trouble because we got to give credit to your wife, right? Linda Turner. I know she helps out with that.
Well, she gets all the credit, right? I mean, over the years, and you probably, get there if you're not there already. I learned that my job is to stay out of the way and do what I'm told.
Oh, that's true. And, it made me think too about you. Like, who got you into golf initially? And are you any good? I imagine you are. You've been doing it for 28
Uh,
years.
well, listen, and and hopefully you'll get a chance to make it out to the
Yeah.
tournament this year on June 19th. But they don't let me play.
Oh.
So I get to sit out on a hole and kind of, greet some folks and say some thank yous on hole number one. They don't let me play. And so if I was the golfer that I think I am, or I think I should be, I think they let me play in my whole tournament. And so they've told me once, no, we don't want to slow the play down quite that much. Waiting on you to find your ball. So
Well, you just got to get Charles Barkley involved, and you'll be playing all the holes.
yeah, for sure. Well, Charles, his swing looks better. So
Yeah, he's getting there.
yeah.
Well, I know you have some celebrities that come by, 49ers type celebrities. Who are some of the names that fans could maybe look forward to seeing out there?
Well, over the years, man, I can't thank my old teammates enough. Ronnie has come to, I think, all but
Wow.
one of our tournaments, and Joe's probably come to half our tournaments, and Jerry the same. And so we've been very fortunate, that we've had a lot of support over the years. And I know this year, Patrick Willis told
Wow.
me that this will be his first time out to make the tournament, and Mike McGlinchey, who is no longer with the team now, but saw the value in it and the commitment to the kids, and is coming back to participate this year. So that's just a few of the guys, and I'm just humbled that our guys always see the importance of it. Fred Warner,
Mm.
who's been a number of years, is coming back this year. So it's exciting, and it's a fun day.
No, it's great. I'm excited too because Patrick Willett, he's a friend of the show, so that'd be awesome to see him there.
Right, great. Well, I'm a new friend now, right?
Yeah, yeah, no,
Listen,
exactly, yeah.
well, and you didn't tell me about our Tracy roots, man. I mean, I'd have been on years ago.
Well, I had to surprise you.
Yeah, good surprise, great
Yeah.
surprise.
Well, speaking of your wife, Linda, how did you guys meet and how long have you been married?
Oh, geez, you're gonna get me in trouble, man. You're
Yeah.
supposed to send me those questions, ahead of time, so I'll be ready, so I look real sharp. No, Linda and I actually met. She's so the crazy part is of the story is I went to Purdue, and Linda went to Notre Dame, and so right there's a rub, right? There's an interstate rub right there, right? And so we're both. I'm from Chicago, and she's kind of from the suburbs of Chicago, but we actually met in San Francisco,
Ah.
some 30 years ago, and met in an event, and fast forward, here we are 2 kids later. So yeah, it's been wonderful. She's definitely the rock. She makes it all happen, and like I said, I finally learned to
Mm.
just stay out of the way and take good direction is where I'm at.
Well, that's funny. And you mentioned your kids there, and I know a lot of athletes have kids young sometimes and mention how it's hard to be around when they're playing. So,
Yeah.
since you retired relatively young, were you able to kind of be there and raise them and have that benefit, I guess?
Well, my kids are kind of spread out a little bit.
Mm.
My oldest, Sheena, is 38,
Oh, okay.
and then Miles and Ella are my younger two, and so they all grew up as a part of the Boys and Girls Club
Mm.
and the tournament, and so that's a very cool part of it for Linda and I, is that the kids have actually been, my younger kids. We started the tournament, before they were born,
Mm.
and so they've really grown up in it, and it's just really been cool to see them grow up and now be a part of it as young adults.
Yeah. Well, I was wondering, like, as a fun question, did you ever walk in on them trying on your Super Bowl rings or bust them doing that over the years?
Hey, come on, Jim. You don't just leave them things laying around now. I got them locked up, man. I still won't let them hold them because, I'm not fast enough to keep up with them anymore. As they've gotten older, I think there's been, I guess, more of a connection there, or maybe an appreciation for it in some way. having played before they were born is probably a little tough for them to, to imagine. But growing up around it, I think, they've had their moments when it all makes sense. So
Yeah, that's true. And another really cool detail I found out about you is you obviously went to Purdue University, but you went back and finished and got your degree. And I thought it was really special that you were able to get your degree on the same day as your daughter Ella, right, from Purdue.
yeah, yeah, man, that was so cool. You know, uh, Bill Walsh kind of pioneered, he and Dr. Edwards, a degree completion program here at the Niners. And so, to your point, I hadn't graduated, when I came out and played my career. And at the end, well, during my career, Dr. Edwards started a degree completion program, and it was connected with USF. And so I actually graduated from USF a few years after retiring.
Mm.
But my wife was on a crusade of, hey, but you didn't finish at Purdue. You should finish at Purdue. And so she kind of started us down a track of, going back to Purdue, reaching out. And for some years it sat there. But then, when Ella decided to go to Purdue, and Linda got back on me about the idea of finishing there. There came a point where if I could finish there, then there would be this opportunity to walk with Ella. And once I
Mm.
heard that news, I was done. Right?
Yeah.
It was magical that day, man. And one of my concerns was, would I be taken away from her special day? Because it was really about her, and she was so cool about it. And so to experience it with her at Purdue was just the absolute best. And as I've learned, my wife was right again. What I should be doing, and such a cool memory. Yeah, for
Like you
sure.
said, you're taking that direction from your wife.
Yeah, man. Listen, it should have started years ago, but I guess it started right when it should.
Well, I thought it was interesting. Your degree is in organizational leadership, right? So you know a little bit about that, being on teams and whatnot.
Yeah, well, I've definitely seen it work, right? Playing for Bill Walsh and then working for him at Stanford, and obviously just our rich history of Hall of Fame players that I got the chance to work with and be around. And even now, working with John Lynch, who's the absolute best, and Kyle, who I think is the best coach in the league, and our ownership, the family, the York family, it's all just, I've been really, really blessed in it all, man, to have played here, won a few games, got a few rings, and to be a part of us chasing it down now is it's just really, really special.
Yeah. And I saw a photo of you. It looked like you were maybe giving a speech in the locker room. So were you kind of the rah rah, give the dramatic speech
Uh,
before a game guy, or?
I don't know if I was the rah rah. There might have just been one of those exceptional moments, right? That it got to me, right? Yeah, no, I mean, listen, we had such a team of leaders, and I was just trying to hold up my end, through my 11 years, and we got some great driving forces as a part of it, and like I talked about, Bill, is our leadership kept us on point, right?
Yeah.
Kept us on edge, never ever satisfied. And having the best quarterback ever, didn't hurt the deal.
Well, who are
Yeah.
you away from the field? Are you a music or concert
Mm.
guy? Because my dad said he saw you at a Luther Vandross concert back in the day. I don't know if you remember that.
Was that his Circle Star? Man, he going back, man. Yeah. Uh, yeah, I mean, I guess I've had all the phases, right? I went through a car phase, I went through and so right now I think I finally tried to connect to just really enjoying, real moments in life and the kids and
Mm.
being supportive. And the wife doesn't like for me to sit very long. So
Mhm.
it's either doing a list of hers or engaging in having, just enjoying friends, and I've got some great memories, some great friendships. And, I'm trying to appreciate the time.
Yeah.
because it's not promised for us, and so we really have to work at it.
Yeah. Well, I had to
Yeah.
ask since the Luther Vandross story made me think, because your name's Keena Turner, but do
Right.
people Tina Turner? Do they always get confused or mention Tina? I feel like you've heard that probably a lot of your life.
Yeah, no, for sure. And yeah, and it's and we lost the great Tina
Mm,
Turner here recently. I was a big fan. I got an opportunity to meet her
mm,
backstage at one of her concerts years ago. And one of the things it's so funny you asked that, because one of the things I used to always ask in these opportunities to go out and kind of speak, I would ask the folks, I say, hey, who thought Tina Turner was actually going to be here today? And literally, man, in 30 years, there's always been at least one person that's raised their hand, right? So, uh, you grow up with a name like Keena, over the years, when I was younger, I was like, I got to get out of this name as soon as I can. And as I got older, the uniqueness of it is something that, you grow to appreciate. And you haven't met many Keenas along the way, have you?
That's true. I don't think I've heard of anyone named
There you
Keena.
go. So I'm the only one. When you think
Yeah.
of that name, I'm the only one.
Well, you were a 2019 Bay Area Hall of Fame inductee, and I got to speak with Will Clark just the other day, and he was recently back in town. So I was curious, were you there? Because there's some great inductees: Patrick Willis, as you
Right.
know, Gary Payton,
Yeah.
Buster Posey, Julie Foudy. So
Right.
some great names.
No, that was a heck of a lineup. And yes, we were there, got a
Mm,
chance to be there to support Patrick, who's, just absolute best, right? I mean, Fred's probably gonna write a whole another, tale, when his career is done. But man, was Patrick Willis the absolute beast at the position. So wanted to be there to support him. He went into our 49ers Hall of Fame here recently, and so was just excited to see him get his just due. And hopefully this leads him to Canton,
yeah,
because I think he deserves to be there too.
yeah, and as you know, he'll get in there.
Hope so. Yeah, he
Yeah,
should. He better.
yeah. Well,
Right.
speaking of some great names, I saw a picture of you with Willie Mays a few years ago, and I think it might have been on his birthday. So, are you a big
Yeah.
baseball fan at all, or how'd that come about?
Yeah, well, Larry and Pam Bear have been, amazing friends over the years, and they've had us out on different occasions. They sent the invitation, for Willie's big birthday,
Mm.
and man, who's not a Willie Mays fan, right? And
Yeah.
I can just remember my dad talking about, Willie Mays, the great Willie Mays, when I was a kid and growing up, and kind of trying to be my own baseball player, and so to come out and met Willie over the years. I'll tell you my cool Willie Mays story. And so, you used to could fly in and out of Tahoe, right? And I don't know, I was up there for something and I'm flying back out. And I get on the plane. Willie Mays is sitting up front. And I'm like, wow, Willie Mays. And so then I mosey my way all the way to the back. And the next thing I know, I see Willie waving me up, waving me up to the front, to come sit with him. And it
Wow.
was such a cool story for me and experience. And years later, the story came up with some folks that traveled with Willie, whose dad was with him that day, and we
Wow.
kind of talked about it. And so, very cool experience for me. And yeah, I mean, he's the best, right? Willie
Yeah.
May. I mean, you don't have to say anymore, right? You say that name, and that's it, right?
Yeah, the greatest of all time.
Seriously.
Well,
Yeah.
I had one question that kind of jumped out at me. You're in the Jewish Sports Hall of Fame, so are you Jewish, or I didn't know that?
I am not,
Oh, okay.
but very proud of the recognition. And listen, I think we're all in this thing together.
Hmm.
No matter how we kind of want to emphasize the differences, we're all in this thing together. And so survival is about all of us surviving, and all of us living a good life and having appreciation for one another as people. And so I hope that's what I represent. that I'm about the people, I'm about the good people, and I'm not about the bad people, no matter who they are. And you know who you
Yeah.
are. So, yeah, it's about all of us together.
Awesome. Well, I know you're from Chicago, so big question here. I gotta ask: is Gibson Steakhouse the best, or?
Oh man, it's been a while. I'm not as much the red meat eater as I was back in the day, so I'm trying to stay healthier. But it's one of
Yeah.
them.
And I heard you're from 74th and Racine in Chicago, so I was
Yeah,
just curious what your upbringing was like. How do you reflect on coming up as a kid?
yeah, wow. Well, 74th and Racine was one of the blocks. My last block in Chicago was 90th and Marsfield, which was right across Ashland. And yeah, man, inner city.
Mm,
Inner city, south side of Chicago. And I kind of went over to kind of the southeast side of town for high school. I went to a place called Chicago Vocational, and my cool memory about that is that's where Dick Buckus went to high school, right? And one of my heroes, right? And Dick and I had the same head coach. Like that head
mm,
coach was still there when I got there, Bernie O'Brien. And so I learned the basics about caring about teammates, about what a team was all about, and what it was like to win, and how it took a team to win. So I learned all of that in high school. And I saw some things as an inner city kid, but it was good. Mom and dad showed me how to work hard.
mm.
And you take those lessons with you for life.
Yeah. Well, I also heard that you played football on the street, right? So that sounds like it hurts. Was that tackle or?
Uh, no tackle.
Okay.
Yeah, no tackle. Yeah, light post to light post, right, were the touchdowns, and it was a passing league, right? So inner city passing league with no park. So, but yeah, you had, and the cars that were parked there were just, part of the part of what you had to get by.
Well, basketball, that was your favorite sport, right?
Yeah, but I never had a left hand, Jim. So I never was good enough to play anywhere. In my mind, I thought I was a basketball player, but yeah, I never could finish with the left, so that's why football was my game.
I just thought it was interesting because then you take off and go to the NFL, then that's when Jordan kind of shows up. And I imagine you got to see him play maybe in Oakland or.
Well, some along the way when I traveled back to Chicago and for sure on the road. But yeah, man, what an amazing footprint he left
Hmm.
in Chicago and on the NBA, right? So yeah, Chicago became a basketball town, still a baseball town,
Yeah.
but became a basketball town.
Well, you mentioned Dick Butkus and how you guys went to the same school and had the same coach. You made a comment in your Chicagoland induction speech about seeing his golden cleat. So,
Yeah,
what,
yeah.
do you have any more detail on that? Sounds like it made kind of an impression on you.
Well, it did. I mean, my high school was 4,500 students, so it was this enormous high
Yeah.
school. And Dick and his time there, sports were just huge there, right? And so you walk in the front door in those days in Chicago Vocational, and there were just trophy cases lining up all over. And the one that left an imprint on me was the one that had Dick Buckus, bronze shoes sitting right up front. And I was like, man, that's it, right? That's what if you're playing some sport, you're playing football, then that's where you want to end up.
Mm.
So I never got my shoe in there, but I know why his is in there for sure.
Well, did you have a relationship with him through the years, or I imagine you got to meet him?
Yeah, I haven't had a relationship with Dick other than just a distant
Mm.
admiration. I missed him at a signing, one of those signings that they do. I think he was coming the day after me, and I asked one of the guys that had his setup there if he would if they would ask him to sign a picture for me, and they did, and they
Mm.
actually sent it to me, and it's one of my I don't have many signed items, but it's one of my prized possessions, and he's got Chicago Vocation on there, so it's very cool,
Yeah, it
very
is
cool.
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of your autographs, I know you have a nice one. You put all the letters in there. There's no scribbling. You got a nice signature.
Oh, okay. Well, it was a good day.
Well, was your mom okay with you pursuing football? Were they concerned at all, or?
Yeah, mom was cool with it. Grandma was the
Mhm.
one that had the early issue. We had to work grandma through it, but she came around.
Yeah, I had Tim Brown on. He said how he kind of had to sneak out there, and then his mom found out and got all worked up over it.
Right. Yeah. No, no. Mom and grandma can have a say.
Well, you were drafted in the second round by the Miami Dolphins, and do you ever think back, man, what would have happened if I wasn't Trey? Would I be sitting somewhere in Florida right now, or does that ever go through your mind?
Yeah, I've heard that version of it along the way, but I was unaware,
Mm.
that that happened if it did. So in my eyes, I was always. But the question is, did I know who the head coach was of the Niners when I got drafted? And I did not. A guy by the linebacker coach called me, a guy by the name of Norb
Mm.
Hecker. And when he called me on draft day and said that the Niners that selected me, I thought he was the head coach. So that's how much I knew about Bill Walsh at that point.
Well, I was going to ask you about Norb Hecker. What kind of relationship did you have with him, and did he obviously have some kind of impact on you as a rookie player?
Oh, for sure he did. I mean, he was my introduction to the league as a
Mm.
teacher. And, Norb had played in the league, had worked, for, Vince Lombardi, had played in Washington, so he had his own, credibility and history. And so yeah, he's who I kind of got my first, kind of first indoctrination, introduction to, what the league was all about.
Mm. Well, a few years in, you guys got to the Super Bowl, your first Super Bowl, and I know people like to bring up how you had chicken pox. I thought that was a good strategy because maybe if you give it to the other team, they'll break out at halftime.
They sure didn't act like they were aware of it the way the game was going, and we were
Yeah.
banging. Yeah, no, it's cool to look back on. It's not
Yeah.
cool to go through.
Yeah. Were you ever one of those people that got chicken pox again, or is it one and done for you?
Well, listen, I didn't get them until I was what, 23 or something, 23, 24 when I got them. I sure as heck hope I don't get them again. But yeah.
Well, you were part of an iconic era of 49ers history, so I was wondering, did you guys have any hangout spots in the Bay Area?
Oh man. Yeah, we kind of stayed on the peninsula. Most of
Mm.
our damage was on the peninsula. I think the place we used to hit the most was like Orphan Annie's, that was on the peninsula that we hit up every Tuesday night or something, our day off. So, but the places moved around,
Yeah.
but that one was kind of consistent over the years.
Because I know a lot of Giants players live like in the Foster City area, so is that kind of where you were at then?
Yeah, San Carlos, Foster City, Redwood City,
Okay.
somewhere in that, yeah, in that zone for sure.
And did you guys ever commingle with Raider players or any other Bay Area sports teams while you were playing?
I didn't have any close friends on,
Mm.
on the Raiders in those days. It wouldn't be unusual if you played with a guy that was across the bay.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of thing did happen, but and I spent probably Dusty Baker is
Mm.
my coolest memory of guys we kind of hung around with back in those days.
That's awesome. Yeah, I
Yeah,
had Fred Bolitnikoff on, and he said how they had like a basketball team, and they'd travel around and play, and they played the Niners basketball team, and
right.
that was pretty crazy.
Yeah, that went on for years. I mean,
Oh,
we
okay.
we had the same thing for pretty much all the years I played, and so that got you around to meet not just other NFL teams that were playing basketball, but just about everybody in the neighborhood.
Well, I was able last season to see the 49ers open up the season at Soldier Field. So it made me think, did you have any special memories there since that's the area you're from, or any other stadiums that you just always felt like you played good at?
Wow. No, I don't know if any stadiums jump out for me. I do remember this though, is I hadn't won in Chicago, right? And obviously that game was very personal
Mm.
for me. And so I hadn't won a game in Chicago as a player until we played the NFC Championship game back there, and we won that one. So that was a nice memory to
Yeah.
have.
That's the one that matters right there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned you went through a car phase, and that was actually one of my questions. You're famously known in Tracy for having the car dealership with Ronnie Lott. So I was wondering, was that strictly business, or were you kind of a car guy too?
Oh, I was definitely a car. I mean, it's hard not to be a car guy, and that was a great brand. And I'm no longer in the dealership now. Ronnie's just kind of kept going, but that was a really cool project. Learned a lot, built the store, went to dealer school, came back
Wow.
and ran the store for a number of years, and so that business is a lot like the football business because the car business, you're open every day except, once or twice a year. So that reminds you of football when you play, 7 days a week for 6 months, hopefully.
Yeah. Well, did you sell any cars personally? Did you ever walk out onto the lot and?
No, that's a great question, Jim. And I thought I wanted that training, but I remember reading something because John Elway had got in the car business and did really, really well. And I remember something he said that kind of stuck with me. He said, "Yeah, he thought it'd be great to go out and sell cars, and just to learn the business and do it." He said, "But you go out there and if you're talking to a customer, and you're kind of going back and forth a little bit." And the customer says, "John Elway, you're not, you're gonna beat me up over $200 on this car. And you can't win that battle if you John Elway and the guy wants a deal on the car, right?" So I said, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I don't want to be negotiating
Yeah.
over the car first hand,
Yeah.
So
That's a
took that
good
one to
point.
heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I thought it was interesting that you and Ronnie did that together. You're obviously teammates. I imagine you're great friends, and maybe he took the chickenpox thing to heart too much when he was chopping off part of the finger.
Well, listen, uh, Ronnie's an amazing friend, an amazing supporter. He's one of those dudes that his word is his bond.
Mm.
If he tells you he's gonna be there, he's gonna be there. You know, and learned a ton from him about friendship and supporting friends and walking the talk is what I
Mm.
would say about him and getting in the game. Just the way he's lived his life, the example he's put forward. Yeah, he's a friend for life, a teammate for
Mm.
life. So, and I feel that way about a lot. All my team members, Joe, the same way. There's five of us that played together on the four Super Bowls. Me, Ronnie, Eric Wright, Joe Montana, and Mike Wilson, and there's a hell of a bond there that will never go away.
Mm. Well, another guy that I imagine you have a good bond with, you got to see him come in as a rookie as well. Jerry Rice, he's a friend of the show, and
Right.
it made me think of The Hill. I think it's in Redwood City. So I heard Roger Craig puked a few times doing that. So did you ever have the pleasure of taking in that endurance workout?
So I did, and you call it a hill, I call it a mountain. Okay, it was a mountain, and I did it with them one time. Yeah, man. I mean, it was so crazy, Jim. I mean, they took off up this mountain full speed.
Wow.
I mean, it was like, as soon as we took off, they were gone. And I'm trying to get up this mountain, and I was like, oh man, this is what wide receivers and running backs need. This isn't what linebackers need. But yeah, Roger Craig and Jerry started an unbelievable pace of preparation
Mm.
and commitment to training. You know, and I mean, and I used to watch them, and I don't know if the memory is playing tricks on me, but I remember Roger and Jerry every time they touched the ball in practice, ran all the way to the goal line,
Mm.
wherever we were on the field. That's just the way they practice. That's the way they train. And I think, you know, who you are every day becomes who you are. And those guys set that down. And it really put us in place to have a heck of a run. Now, we didn't win it every year, but we won.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You had your fair share.
Yeah. Should be six, man. I got four, should be six. And I still wake up in the middle of the night and think about the two that got away.
Mm. Some nightmares, you know?
Hey, man, they there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, people make a lot of talk about athletes when they retire having trouble transitioning. And it seems like you mentioned always being busy. You're a guy that's kind of retired and you coach with Bill Walsh, like you mentioned at Stanford. You've always had something going to keep you moving, right?
Yeah, I think my approach, even though I don't know if I always knew what I wanted to do, was to kind of keep busy, keep active, keep searching for, things of interest or opportunities. And yeah, I've just been very fortunate, and come back here a few times, like I said, and it's just, it's been wonderful. We
Yeah.
just need to finish, get
Yeah.
get another one.
Yep.
Yeah,
And you're
yeah,
close. It could happen, you know? And
yeah.
you,
No, well, yeah.
I won't
It's
I won't jinx it though.
no, let's not do
Yeah.
that.
Well, I was curious about your relationship with Bill Walsh. Did he have any lasting impacts on you off the field that maybe you'll be just doing something throughout the day, even today, and it'll kind of hit you or remind you of him that he planted in you?
Well, yeah, I've got all kinds of reminders around the office when it comes to Bill. I tell people I grew up with Bill,
Mm,
to be a 24-year-old kid and play 11 years here.
mm,
Yeah, he definitely left an impression. One of the things I think I took away that I didn't realize was, part of kind of who we became in terms of what the expectation was from him is chasing a perfection. It was just he was just never satisfied. He was never satisfied, and I think that was a part of who we were. I think we had to learn the lesson, because we wanted as a very young group of players, and then we had our trials and difficulties, and we're able to win some more. And I think the success and the lows were a part of developing kind of who we were to chase and to continue to chase it.
mm.
And the realization that every year is different and every year is new and the obstacles and challenges will be different, but the attitude and approach has to stay the same. And so, yeah, no, a lot of memories of Bill, and some things I didn't understand about kind of his approach until I got a lot older,
Mm.
in terms of how you chase it, how you stay consistent about it, how you stay hungry, and how you keep driving every day for it.
Sounds like he's kind of like a father figure then, right?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I know, after retiring and working for him at Stanford, I considered him a true mentor. He was someone that I would bounce ideas and want his perspective and opinion
Mm.
on, because I went from a player coach relationship to a coach for him, working for him in a coaching capacity, to I think a friendship, a mentorship, kind of relationship. So you know I'm very thankful for the
Yeah.
time we spent.
Well, you spent 11 seasons in the NFL, and it must have been a full circle to then be inducted in the Chicagoland Sports Hall of Fame, right, in 22. And that was quite the class. You were in there with Brian Urlacher and Marcus Allen and Sean Payton. So
Yeah.
some good golfers in that group.
Yeah, some good athletes, some dang on good football players for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it. I mean, it's so cool to, I haven't spent a lot of time back in Chicago since coming to California, but it's always home, and that was, very humbling to be, thought of that way back at home, and to be back there with those guys. It was bear country, so I had to walk softly a little bit, but it was a really cool experience.
Yeah. Well, it's the Bears, so just run faster than everyone else, right? And you'll be good. Well, Keena, it's been a lot of fun to have you on the show. Thanks for giving me some time. And just curious, what else is on the agenda for you today?
Well, we got a mini camp starting
Mm,
tomorrow.
okay.
So, everybody's traveling today to get in town. So excited to have everybody here. And we're getting close, man.
Yeah.
Getting close, right? Once it starts, man, it's time to go.
Yeah. Get the machine going.
Here we go.